The alarm systems screamed across the Galactic Council headquarters. Director Thelvas rushed from his meditation chamber to the central command room, his forearms adjusting his official robes as he moved. Something had triggered the deep space monitoring network, and from the panic in his staff's movements, it was serious. "Report," Thelvas demanded, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into Galactic Standard. The junior officer at the scanning station looked terrified. "Sir, we have detected an unknown object approaching Voxstar space." The signature matches nothing in our current database, but when we ran it through historical archives. The officer paused, his breathing rapid. "Sir, it matches technology from Earth." The room went silent. Every species in the galaxy knew about Earth. It was taught as a cautionary tale to every young student in every school across the stars. Earth was the most dangerous planet ever discovered. A nightmare world where gravity could crush bones, where the air itself contained deadly gases, where microscopic life could kill within hours. The beings who once lived there, humans, had been declared extinct for 847 galactic cycles. Thelvas felt his blood run cold. That's impossible. Earth was quarantined. Nothing could survive there. He watched the planet for 2 centuries after first contact and saw no signs of continued civilization. The humans died out. "Sir, this object is definitely human in origin. It's broadcasting identification codes and sending out a repeating message in multiple languages. It's asking for peaceful contact." Another officer spoke up from across the room. "Director, I'm pulling up the object's trajectory now. This isn't random drift. It's under power. Someone activated it and sent it here deliberately." Thelvas moved to the main display screen. There, rotating slowly in the void of space, was a primitive probe covered in metal panels and strange symbols. It looked ancient, damaged by centuries in space, but its running lights were glowing, and its antenna was definitely transmitting. "How did it get past our warning systems around Earth?" Thelvas asked. "Sir, that's the concerning part. According to the trajectory analysis, this probe has been in space for approximately 850 cycles. It was launched before the quarantine was established. But something activated it recently and changed its course. The navigation burns are only a few cycles old." Implications made Thelvas feel sick. Something or someone had activated this ancient probe recently. It meant there might still be activity on Earth. It meant humans might still exist. "Convene an emergency council session immediately," Thelvas ordered. "Get representatives from every member species here within the hour. And for safety's sake, deploy a containment field around that probe. If it's carrying anything from that Deathworld, we can't let it contaminate our space." Within the hour, the council chamber was filled with representatives from across the galaxy. The Vorlons whose ancestors had died during first contact with Earth. The Krenth, massive beings who feared nothing except Earth's crushing gravity. The Pixlar, whose crystalline bodies would shatter in Earth's violent atmosphere. All of them stared at the image of the probe on the main screen. "Destroy it," the Vorlon representative hissed. "Nothing from that cursed world should be allowed near civilized space. Our ancestors died because of human contamination. We don't even know if humans still exist," another voice argued. "This could be an automated system, nothing more." Thelvas raised his primary hands for silence. "Before we make any decisions, we need information. I'm authorizing a small research team to approach the probe under maximum quarantine protocols. We need to know what it contains and why it was activated." "This is madness," the Vorlon delegate protested. "Earth killed my people. Humans carry diseases that we had no defense against. Their very presence was toxic to us." "Which is precisely why we need to understand what we're dealing with," Thelvas replied firmly. "The probe has been in space for centuries. Any biological material would be long dead. We can safely examine its data systems." The vote was close, but Thelvas got his authorization. He immediately contacted Krellman, the council's chief synorchaeologist. The old scientist had spent his entire career studying extinct civilizations, but even he seemed nervous about this assignment. "I've read all the reports from first contact," Krellman told Thelvas as they watched the research team approach the probe from a safe observation station. "Humans were remarkable, strong, intelligent, adaptable, but they evolved on a planet that was trying to kill them every moment of every day. It made them dangerous even when they didn't mean to be. The research team worked carefully, using remote tools to access the probe's data systems. What they found made everyone watching fall silent. The probe contained hundreds of cultural artifacts stored in digital format. Music that made use of sound frequencies most species found unsettling. Images of Earth before the quarantine, showing vast cities and technological achievements. Mathematical formulas and scientific data. And perhaps most remarkably, a message. Recorded in dozens of languages, including Galactic Standard, which hadn't even existed when the probe was launched. "How did they know our language?" someone whispered. But that wasn't the most disturbing discovery. As the team dug deeper into the probe's systems, they found recent activity logs. The probe had been dormant for centuries, drifting through space on its original trajectory. But 3 cycles ago, it had received a powerful signal that activated its systems. The signal came from Earth. More than that, the probe had changed course. It had traveled back to Earth's coordinates, spent several days in orbit, and then locked onto the nearest major civilization, which happened to be the Voxstar colonies, before beginning its journey toward them. "It went home," Krellman said, his voice full of wonder and fear. "Something on Earth called it home, uploaded new data, and sent it to find us." The research team activated the probe's visual sensors, accessing the recordings from its recent visit to Earth. Everyone watched as the images appeared on their screens. It was grainy and damaged by radiation, but unmistakable. Cities with lights, structures that could only be buildings, satellites in orbit, and ships, primitive by galactic standards, but definitely spacecraft moving between Earth and its moon. By the void, Thelva's breathed. They're still there. After all this time, humans survived their Deathworld. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Some delegates demanded immediate military action. Others called for strengthening the quarantine. A few, very few, suggested that perhaps it was time to reconsider Earth's status. But in the back of the observation station, a young scientist named Minji stared at the images from Earth with different eyes. She saw not a threat, but a mystery. She saw a species that had conquered the unconquerable, that had survived what should have killed them. And she saw something the council was too frightened to acknowledge. The probe wasn't a weapon or a warning. It was an invitation. Somewhere on that forbidden Deathworld, humans were alive, waiting, and they wanted to make contact again. The question was whether the galaxy had the courage to answer. Minji couldn't sleep. For 3 days, since the probe's discovery, she had been assigned to the analysis team, cataloging the cultural data stored in its ancient memory banks. Most of her colleagues treated it like handling explosive materials, working quickly and carefully before returning to safe distance. But Minji found herself fascinated. The probe contained fragments of human history, pieces of a civilization that the galaxy had written off as extinct. There were songs that used strange harmonies, poems about concepts like hope and perseverance, images of humans doing impossible things. One picture showed a human climbing a mountain for no reason except personal challenge. Another showed humans diving deep into oceans filled with creatures that could kill them. They seemed to enjoy danger. "You're still here?" Krellman appeared beside her workstation carrying a data tablet. The old xenarchaeologist looked tired. "Mingi, you should rest. This data isn't going anywhere." "I can't stop thinking about them," Mingi admitted. "Look at this." She pulled up an image of Earth from before the quarantine. Their planet has massive storms that can destroy entire cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that fill the air with poison. But they built their homes right next to all these dangers. They didn't run away. They stayed and adapted. Krellman settled into a chair beside her. That's what made them so dangerous. Humans didn't just survive on Earth. They mastered it. A species that can conquer a death world is a species that can conquer anything. He paused, looking around to make sure they were alone. "I need to show you something. Something that isn't in the official reports." He transferred a file to her station. Minji's security clearance shouldn't have allowed her to access it, but Krellman had override authority. These are the original first contact records, the real ones, not the sanitized versions they teach in schools. Minji opened the files and started reading. The truth was different from what everyone believed. The Vorlon diplomatic ship had arrived at Earth 847 cycles ago, excited to welcome a new species to the galactic community. The humans had seemed friendly, curious, eager to learn. For 3 days, the contact went well. Then the Vorlons started dying, not because humans attacked them, not because of any weapons. The Vorlon immune system simply couldn't handle exposure to human biology. The bacteria that lived harmlessly on human skin were deadly to Vorlons. The air humans breathed out contained compounds that poisoned Vorlon blood. Even being in the same room as humans was slowly killing them. The humans tried to help, but their attempts at medical aid only made things worse. Human hands carried microorganisms that invaded Vorlon bodies and multiplied. Within a week, half the Vorlon diplomatic team was dead. The survivors fled back to their ship and sent out a galaxy-wide warning. Earth was a Class 12 Deathworld. Humans were an extinction-level threat. All contact must be prohibited. They didn't mean to kill anyone, Minji said softly, reading the reports. The humans were trying to save them. I know, Krellman replied. But fear doesn't care about intentions. The Council placed Earth under the strictest quarantine ever imposed. They surrounded the system with warning beacons and surveillance satellites. They watched for 200 years, and eventually the signs of human civilization faded. Everyone assumed they had died out, victims of their own violent planet. But they didn't die, Mingi said, looking at the recent images from the probe. They're still there. Why didn't our surveillance detect them? Grellman smiled grimly. That's the question that's keeping the Council awake at night. Either our monitoring failed, or humans learned how to hide from us. Neither option is comforting. Minji spent the next several days diving deeper into the probe's data. The more she learned, the more amazed she became. Humans had sent the probe into space as a message to anyone who might find it. They included information about their biology, their culture, their history. They included mathematical and scientific principles to prove their intelligence. They included music and art to show their creativity. But most importantly, they included coordinates and instructions for peaceful contact. They had assumed, hoped, that someday someone would find their message and respond with friendship. Then Minji found something that changed everything, hidden. Deep in the probe's systems, protected by layers of encryption that had taken days to crack, was a video file. The timestamp showed it was recorded just 3 cycles ago. During the probe's recent visit to Earth, Minji's hands shook as she opened the file. The video quality was poor, degraded by radiation and time, but she could make out shapes, room. With equipment that looked similar to Council technology but different, adapted, improved. And sitting in front of the camera was a human. She was young, with dark hair and eyes that seemed incredibly alert. She wore a uniform marked with symbols and spoke in a language the probe translated to Galactic Standard. My name is Commander Ji Woo Park of the Earth Defense Network. If you're watching this, it means our probe found you, and you had the curiosity and courage to access its deepest systems. We know you're out there. We've known for 800 years. We've been watching your satellites. We've been studying your signals. We know you quarantined us because you fear what we are. But we're not your enemy. We never were. We're survivors, just like you. And we're ready to talk when you're ready to listen. The coordinates for safe contact are attached to this message. We'll be waiting. The video ended. Minji sat in stunned silence. Humans hadn't just survived. They had been watching the Council the entire time. They'd learned Galactic Standard by monitoring communications. They'd developed their own space technology. And they had been waiting, hoping that someone would eventually come back. She wanted to report this immediately, but something made her hesitate. She thought about the Council's reaction to the probe. The fear. The talk of military action. If they knew humans were this advanced, this aware, would they try to destroy Earth before humanity could become a threat? Minji copied the video file and the contact coordinates to a personal storage device. Then she deleted the file from the main research database. If anyone asked, she would say the encryption was too damaged to recover the contents. It wasn't much, but it might buy time. She needed to talk to someone she could trust, someone who wouldn't immediately run to the council. She thought of Dae-yoon, a cargo pilot she had met at the transport station. He was independent, unconnected to council politics, and he had a reputation for taking risks when he believed in something. The next day, Mingi found him at the cargo docks, supervising the loading of supplies onto his ship. He was tall for his species, with an easy confidence that came from years of navigating dangerous space routes. "Mingi, what brings a council scientist to my humble ship?" Dae-yoon greeted her with a smile. "I need to show you something. Something that could change everything we know about the galaxy. But I need you to promise you won't report it to the council right away." His smile faded, replaced by serious interest. "That sounds either really exciting or really illegal." "Maybe both," Minji admitted. She pulled out her data tablet and showed him the video. She showed him the images from Earth. She explained everything she had learned. Dae-yoon watched in silence, his expression shifting from skepticism to wonder to determination. When she finished, he looked at her with respect. "They're alive. Actually alive and waiting for someone to give them a chance." "The council won't," Minji said. "They're too afraid. They'll strengthen the quarantine or worse." But those coordinates Jiwoo provided, therefore a location in Earth's outer system, away from the planet itself, a place where contact might be safe. Dae-yoon understood what she was suggesting before she even finished speaking. "You want to go there? You want to make contact?" "I can't do it alone. I need a ship. A pilot who isn't afraid to break some rules, and maybe a few other people crazy enough to believe this is worth the risk." Dae-yoon looked at his cargo ship, then back at her. "I know a medic named Sunwoo who specializes in xenobiology. She's always talking about how the council plays it too safe with new species. And there's Haijin, a communications specialist who lost her council position because she kept arguing for more open contact policies. They might be interested. This is dangerous," Mingi warned. "If we get caught, we'll be arrested. If we succeed, we'll be dealing with a species from a Deathworld. Or," Dae-yoon said with a growing smile, "we might be the ones who finally give humanity a chance to prove they're not monsters. We might be the ones who end an 847 cycle mistake." He extended his hand in the human gesture Mingi had seen in the probe's cultural files. "I'm in. Let's go meet some humans." Sunwoo agreed to join them almost immediately. The medic had spent years frustrated by the council's cautious approach to xenobiology, and the chance to meet an entirely new species, especially one as unique as humans, was too good to pass up. She brought medical equipment and a portable lab, insisting that if they were going to make first contact, they needed to understand human biology well enough to avoid the mistakes that killed the Vorlons. Haijin took more convincing. Communications specialist had lost her council position 3 years ago for repeatedly arguing that the galaxy's fear-based contact policies were creating more problems than they solved. She was working at a small translation service when Minji and Dae-yoon found her. "You're asking me to violate the most serious quarantine in galactic history," Haijin said, looking at the video of Commander Jiwoo. "If we're caught, it's not just arrest. It's permanent exile, maybe worse. But if we succeed," Minji countered, "we could end a centuries-old injustice. Humans have been imprisoned in their own solar system for something they didn't mean to do. They've been alone for 847 cycles, and they're still trying to reach out peacefully." Haijin watched the video again, studying Jiwoo's face. "I spent 2 years of my life studying old human languages. I thought it was just academic curiosity, learning about an extinct civilization, but now..." She looked up at them. "How could I say no to actually using that knowledge?" "I'm in." They spent the next week preparing Dae-yoon's cargo ship. The vessel was designed for long-distance hauling, which meant it had the fuel capacity and supplies for an extended journey. But Earth's coordinates were in a region marked as permanently restricted space. They would need to avoid council patrol routes and stay off the main shipping lanes. "The good news is, nobody goes near Earth," Dae-yoon said, plotting their course. "The quarantine zone extends for 3 light years in all directions. Most ships avoid it completely. The bad news is, if anyone sees us heading that direction, they'll know exactly what we're doing." Sunwoo worked on preparing the ship's environmental systems. According to the records, Earth's atmospheric pressure is nearly twice what most species consider comfortable. The oxygen percentage is higher, too. We'll need to adjust our tolerance levels gradually, and I'm bringing every antibiotic and immune booster I can get my hands on. The Vorlons died from exposure to human biology, Minji reminded her. We need to be ready for that. I've been studying the first contact medical reports, Sunwoo replied. The Vorlons made mistakes. They didn't understand that Earth's environment creates incredibly aggressive microorganisms. Humans evolved alongside these organisms, so they're immune. We need to treat contact with humans like entering a high-contamination zone, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. Proper precautions, we should be safe. Hajen spent her time studying the cultural files from the probe, learning everything she could about human communication. She discovered that humans used extensive nonverbal communication, facial expressions and body language that conveyed meaning beyond words. They had concepts like humor and sarcasm that didn't translate easily to other species. Humans are incredibly social, Hygiene explained to the group. They form strong emotional bonds with each other. Friendship, family, loyalty, these concepts are central to their culture. If we want them to trust us, we need to understand that. Finally, they were ready. Daeon filed a flight plan, claiming they were hauling supplies to a mining colony near the edge of Council space. Once they cleared the traffic control zones, he would alter course for Earth. With luck, it would be days into their journey before anyone noticed. The launch went smoothly. Daeyoon's ship, which he had named the Wanderer, lifted off from the cargo docks without incident. They followed their filed route for 6 hours, then made their turn toward the Forbidden Zone. No going back now, Daeon said, as Earth's coordinates appeared on their navigation system. Next stop, the most dangerous place in the galaxy. The journey took 3 weeks. They used the time to prepare, studying everything they knew about humans and rehearsing first contact protocols. Minji reviewed the probe's data files repeatedly, memorizing details about Earth and human culture. Sunwoo ran simulations of potential medical emergencies. Hyjin practiced speaking the human languages stored in the probe's database, trying to perfect the strange sounds and pronunciations as they got closer to Earth's solar system. Minji felt her anxiety growing. What if Commander Jiwoo's message was old and humans were no longer interested in contact? What if the Council had been right to fear them? What if making contact triggered another incident like the one that killed the Vorlons? You're thinking too much, Daeon told her one evening, as they sat in the ship's common area. We're doing this because it's right. Humans deserve a chance. If the Council won't give it to them, we will. On the 21st day, they crossed into the quarantine zone. Immediately, their sensors started picking up the Council's warning beacons. Ancient satellites broadcasting messages in every language. Danger. Contamination zone. Lethal environment. Do not approach. The messages had been repeating for 847 cycles, a constant reminder of the galaxy's fear. I'm detecting something else, Hyjin said from the communications station. Active transmissions. Not just the warning beacons, but actual data traffic. A lot of it. They moved deeper into the system, and their sensors went wild. Space around Earth was filled with activity. Dozens of satellites in various orbits, a large station orbiting Earth's moon, smaller stations scattered throughout the system, and ships primitive compared to Council vessels, but definitely functional spacecraft, moving between Earth and its orbital facilities. This isn't a dead civilization, Sunwoo breathed. This is an active spacefaring species. They've built all of this while under quarantine, and their communications console lit up. An incoming transmission, powerful and clear, in perfect galactic standard. Unknown vessel. This is Earth Defense Station Sentinel-7. You are entering restricted space. State your intentions or be fired upon. The 4 of them looked at each other in shock. The voice was human, and it spoke with authority and confidence. Hyjin moved quickly to respond. Earth Defense Station, this is the cargo vessel Wanderer. We come in peace. We received coordinates for safe contact from your probe. We're here to talk. There was a long pause. They could almost feel the humans on the other end processing this information. It's probably debating how to respond to the first non-human visitors in centuries. Finally, the voice returned. Wanderer, we've been monitoring your approach for the past 3 days. We know who you are, Minji of the Council Research Division. We know you accessed our probe's full data files. We know you came here without authorization. Another pause. We're sending you navigation coordinates. Follow them exactly. Any deviation will be treated as hostile. Welcome to Earth space. My name is Commander Jiwoo Park. Minji felt her hearts racing. Ju, the same human from the video. The coordinates appeared on their screen, showing a course to the lunar station. They've been watching us since we entered the system, Daeon said with a mix of respect and concern. Their sensor technology is better than I thought. Follow the coordinates, Minji decided. We came here to make contact. Let's trust them. The Wanderer followed the navigation path toward Earth's moon. As they approached, the lunar station grew larger in their viewport. It was an impressive structure, built with a mix of technologies that looked both familiar and alien. Clearly, humans had learned from studying Council equipment, but they had adapted it, improved it, made it their own. A docking tube extended from the station to connect with their ship. Through the viewport, they could see movement inside the station. Figures in uniforms, moving with purpose and efficiency. Atmosphere is safe, Sunwoo reported, checking the readings from the docking tube. They've adjusted it to match our needs. That's considerate. Hajin stood up from her station. They're waiting for us. Are we ready for this? Minji looked at her 3 companions, these people who had risked everything to be here. Then she looked through the viewport at the station, where humanity waited after 847 cycles of isolation. Ready or not, we're about to make history, she said. Let's go meet the humans. The airlock opened, and they stepped into the docking tube. At the far end, visible through the transparent sections, they could see them. Humans, alive, standing tall, waiting with expressions that might have been curiosity or might have been caution. And at the front stood a woman in a commander's uniform. With dark hair and alert eyes that Mingi recognized from the video, Commander Jiwoo Park smiled. A human expression that showed teeth, but somehow conveyed welcome rather than threat. Welcome to Earth space, she said, in perfect galactic standard. We've been waiting a long time for someone to come back. The interior of the lunar station was nothing like Minji expected. She had imagined something crude, built with limited resources by an isolated species. Instead, the corridors were clean and well lit, with technology that looked sophisticated even by Council standards. Humans in various uniforms moved through the halls with confidence, barely glancing at the alien visitors. It was as if they had been expecting this moment for so long that it no longer surprised them. Commander. Gu led them through the station with an easy stride. She was shorter than most Council species, but moved with an efficiency that suggested strength in a compact form. 2 other humans accompanied her. A man she introduced as Chief Administrator Tae-jun, who carried himself with diplomatic grace, and a woman named Dr. Sumain, whose sharp eyes studied the visitors with clear scientific interest. I apologize for the weapons warning when you arrived, Giwoo said as they walked. But you have to understand our position. For 8 centuries, we've been surrounded by warning beacons, telling the galaxy to stay away. When a ship finally shows up, we have to assume the worst until proven otherwise. You knew we were coming? Minji asked. We've been tracking your ship since you entered the system's outer edge, Tae-jun replied. Our sensor network is quite extensive. We've had a lot of time to develop our detection capabilities. He smiled slightly. When you're quarantined, you learn to pay attention to anyone who might be approaching. They arrived at a large conference room with windows overlooking Earth. The planet hung in space like a blue and green jewel, swirled with white clouds. From this distance, it looked beautiful rather than threatening. It's so bright, Sunwoo said, staring at the planet. Most Deathworlds are dark, hostile places, but Earth looks almost inviting. That's the trap, Dr. Sumin said with a slight smile. Earth is beautiful. It's also trying to kill you every moment you're on it. But we evolved there, so to us, it's just home. They sat around a conference table, humans on one side, visitors on the other. It felt formal, almost like a negotiation, but Minji could sense genuine curiosity from the humans. "I need to ask," Hyjin said, speaking carefully in human language before switching back to Galactic Standard. "How did you survive?" The Council watched Earth for 200 years after the quarantine and saw no signs of advanced civilization. Everyone assumed you had died out. Taejun and Jiwoo exchanged glances, and something that might have been amusement passed between them. "We didn't die," Taejun said. "We adapted. After first contact went so badly. After the Vorlons died, and the Council put up those warning beacons, humanity had a choice. We could keep broadcasting to space, hoping someone would come back. Or we could go quiet, study the situation, and prepare. We went quiet," Jiwoo continued. "We shut down most of our radio transmissions. We moved our major cities underground or camouflaged them from orbital detection. We made it look like our civilization had collapsed. And while the Council thought we were dying, we were actually learning everything we could about you. The surveillance satellites you left in our system," Dr. Suman added, "were broadcasting data back to Council space. But they were also broadcasting to each other, coordinating their sensor sweeps. We intercepted those communications. We've studied your technology, your languages, your protocols. We learned Galactic Standard by listening to your satellites talk to each other." Daeyun laughed, a sound of genuine amazement. "You tricked the entire Galactic Council. For 8 centuries you've been watching us while we thought you were extinct." "Not extinct," Taejun said firmly. "Just careful. We didn't know why the Vorlons died. We only knew that our attempt at friendship had killed people, so we studied, we learned, we developed our own medical technology, our own understanding of why humans and other species are biologically incompatible, and we waited for someone to give us another chance." Dr. Suman stood and moved to a display screen on the wall. Medical diagrams appeared, showing comparative biology between humans and various Council species. "The problem is Earth itself," she explained. "Our planet creates an incredibly competitive biological environment. Microorganisms on Earth are aggressive, fast-adapting, and numerous. Humans evolved alongside them, so our immune systems are extremely powerful. But when Vorlons came into contact with us, their immune systems couldn't handle Earth bacteria. It was like sending someone with no defenses into a war zone." "So contact is impossible?" Sunwoo asked, her medical training making her focus on the practical concerns. "No, just difficult," Sumin replied. "We've developed protocols. Sterilization procedures, immune boosters, protective equipment. If proper precautions are taken, contact is safe. The Vorlons didn't have these protocols. They didn't know what they were dealing with. But we do now." She pulled up another set of diagrams. "We've studied every species in the Council through your satellites and transmissions. We know which species are most vulnerable to Earth biology and which are more resistant. We've developed species-specific protocols for safe contact. We've been ready for this meeting for 300 years." The revelation left the visitors stunned. Humans hadn't just survived their isolation. They had used it to become experts on everyone else. "Why didn't you try to break the quarantine?" Minji asked. "You have ships. You could have tried to leave your system." Iwu's expression became serious. "We thought about it many times, but breaking the quarantine by force would confirm every fear the Council has about us. We would be seen as an aggressive Deathworld species that refused to stay contained. Any hope of peaceful contact would be destroyed. So we sent out the probe instead," Taejun added. A non-threatening gesture. A message saying, "We're still here. We're still interested in joining the galaxy, and we're ready to talk when you are." "We hoped someone would have the curiosity and courage to investigate. We're glad it was you." The meeting continued for hours. Humans showed their visitors around the station, explaining how they had developed their technology. Some of it was reverse engineered from studying Council satellites, but much of it was purely human innovation. Solutions to problems created by their unique environment in the station's medical bay. Dr. Sumin showed them the precautions humans had developed. Special suits that filtered out Earth bacteria. Treatment protocols for both humans and non-humans to prevent cross-contamination. vaccines and immune boosters tailored to different species' biology. The truth is, Sumin explained, humans aren't inherently dangerous. Earth's biology is challenging, but it's not impossible to manage. With proper protocols, contact can be completely safe. The original incident with the Vorlons was tragic, but it was also preventable. We just didn't know better at the time. In the observation deck overlooking Earth, Taejun spoke more philosophically. For 8 centuries, we've been alone. We've watched the galaxy go on without us. We've seen your civilizations grow and interact while we sat isolated in our system. Do you know how that feels? To be cut off from everything because of an accident? Because of fear? Some humans are angry, Giwu admitted. They think the Council abandoned us, punished us for something we didn't do on purpose. Others are just eager to finally meet other species, to share what we've learned, and discover what the galaxy has to offer. But everyone agrees on one thing. We want the quarantine to end. As the visit continued, Minji noticed something interesting about human behavior. They were incredibly expressive, their faces showing emotions clearly. When they were interested, their eyes widened and they leaned forward. When they were serious, their expressions became still and focused. Hygiene was right about their social nature. Everything they did seemed designed to communicate and connect. Finally, as their time at the station came to an end, the group reconvened in the conference room. The mood had shifted from cautious first contact to something more like new friendship. So what happens now? Daeon asked. You've proven humans are alive and capable. You've shown you're ready for safe contact. But the Council won't know any of this unless someone tells them. That's why we need you, Taejun said, looking at each visitor in turn. You took an enormous risk coming here. Now we need you to take another one. Go back to the Council and tell them the truth. Tell them humans are alive, we're peaceful, and we're ready to join the galactic community. They won't want to listen, Minji warned. The Council is afraid of what humans represent. A species that conquered a Deathworld is a species they can't control or intimidate. Then we'll prove we're not a threat, Jiwoo said firmly. We'll send delegates with you. Myself, Taejun, and Dr. Sumin will present our case directly to the Council. We'll show them our research, our protocols, our peaceful intentions. You would leave Earth? Sunwoo asked. After being confined here for so long? We're not confined anymore, Jiwoo replied with a slight smile. We're choosing to stay until the galaxy is ready for us. But if 4 brave people can risk everything to give us a chance, then we can be brave enough to face the Council. Taejun stood, and the others followed his lead. There's one more thing you should know, he said. If the Council agrees to lift the quarantine, humanity has a lot to offer the galaxy. Our experience surviving Earth has given us unique knowledge. Medical technology, environmental adaptation techniques, resource efficiency, crisis management. We've spent 8 centuries solving problems the Council has never had to face. We want to share that knowledge. As they prepared to leave the station, Giwoo pulled Minji aside for a private moment. Thank you, the commander said simply. For believing we deserved a chance? For being curious instead of afraid. Whatever happens with the Council, humans will remember that you came to us with open minds. Minji felt a strange warmth at the words. I hope we can convince the Council. You've been alone for too long. Yeah, Jiwoo agreed. But we haven't been idle. And now, finally, someone knows the truth about Earth, that it's not a graveyard of a dead species. It's home to survivors who are ready to take our place among the stars. The return journey felt different. The Wanderer now carried 3 human passengers, and their presence changed everything. Giwoo, Taejun, and Dr. Sumin stayed mostly in the converted cargo hold that had been adapted as their quarters. But they frequently joined the crew in the common areas. Asking questions about Council space and sharing stories about Earth, Minji found herself fascinated by how much the humans wanted to know. They asked about every species in the Council. It's about trade routes and diplomatic protocols, about art and culture from across the galaxy. They had studied everything they could from intercepted communications, but they craved direct knowledge. The small details that only personal interaction could provide. You have to understand, Taejun explained one evening as they shared a meal. We've been watching you for 847 cycles. We know facts and figures, but we don't know what it's like to live in galactic civilization. What does it feel like to travel freely between worlds? To meet dozens of different species in a single day? To be part of something larger than your own planet? Soon you'll know for yourself, Hyjin replied, though her tone carried uncertainty. If the council agrees. If they don't, we'll keep trying, Giwu said, with quiet determination. Humans are good at persistence. It's how we survived Earth. As they approached council space, Mingi sent a carefully worded message ahead. She reported that the probe investigation had led to an extraordinary discovery and requested an emergency council session. She didn't mention humans directly, wanting to present the evidence in person where it couldn't be ignored or dismissed. The response came quickly. Director Thelvas himself replied, ordering them to dock immediately at council headquarters and report directly to the assembly chamber. His message carried an edge of concern, as if he suspected something had gone very wrong with their unauthorized journey. When the Wanderer docked at the massive council station, they were met by security forces. But Thelvas had ordered the guards to escort rather than arrest them, small mercy that suggested he was at least willing to hear their story. The walk through council headquarters was surreal. The halls were filled with representatives from across the galaxy, and all of them stopped to stare as the group passed. Word had spread quickly that something unusual was happening. Some faces showed curiosity, others fear, a few displayed open hostility. The human delegates walked with dignity despite the attention. They wore formal uniforms marked with Earth symbols, and they observed everything with sharp intelligence. More than one council member recoiled when they saw the humans, recognizing what they were from historical records and educational warnings. The chamber erupted in chaos. Voices shouted in dozens of languages, mixing fear and anger and disbelief. It took several minutes for Thelvas to restore order. You brought them here? The Vorlon representative demanded, his voice sharp with emotion. You brought Deathworld creatures to our headquarters? My people died from human contact. With respect, Dr. Suman stepped forward, speaking in perfect galactic standard. Your people died because neither humans nor Vorlons understood the biological incompatibility. We have spent 8 centuries studying this problem and developing solutions. She held up a medical data pad. I have comprehensive protocols for safe contact between humans and every species in this chamber. What happened to the Vorlons was a tragedy, but it doesn't have to happen again. How are you even alive? Another delegate called out, Earth was declared uninhabitable for advanced civilization. The environmental conditions alone should have destroyed you. Earth is our home, Jiwoo replied, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. Yes, it's dangerous by your standards. Yes, the gravity is crushing, the atmosphere is corrosive, the biology is aggressive. But we evolved there. We're adapted to it. What you call a death world, we call the only planet that could have created a species like us. Taejun activated a holographic display showing images of Earth and the orbital stations. For 847 cycles, you have confined us to our system based on fear. But isolation didn't make us weaker. It made us stronger, more self-reliant, more innovative. We developed our own technology, our own solutions to problems you've never faced. We have knowledge and capabilities that could benefit every species here. The Vorlon delegate wasn't satisfied. You speak of peaceful intentions, but your very existence is a threat. Any species capable of surviving Earth is capable of conquering the galaxy. Capable, yes, Jiwoo acknowledged. But willing? No. Humans didn't survive our planet by being conquerors. We survived by being adaptable, by cooperating with each other, by learning from our mistakes. The incident with the Vorlons taught us that our biology is dangerous to others if not properly managed. So we learned how to manage it. A new voice entered the debate. Commander Vrektos, head of Council Military Forces, stood from his seat. I've reviewed the data from your probe and our surveillance of Earth. You developed significant military capabilities during your isolation. You have weapons platforms, defense networks, and combat-capable spacecraft. How do we know this isn't an infiltration strategy? You don't, Giwoo said bluntly. You have to trust us. just as we're trusting you by coming here. But consider this. If humans wanted to be a threat, we had 847 cycles to prepare a military assault. Instead, we sent out a probe with cultural artifacts and a request for peaceful contact. We're not here as invaders. We're here as applicants, asking to join your civilization. Minji stepped forward again. I've spent weeks with these humans. I've seen their station, their technology, their society. They're not monsters. They're people who've been punished for an accident they didn't mean to cause. They deserve a chance to prove themselves. Dae-yoon spoke up from beside her. I'm a cargo pilot, not a diplomat. But I know that the galaxy is built on trade and communication between different species. We're stronger together than apart. If we reject humans because they're different, because they come from a challenging environment, what does that say about us? Sun-woo added her voice. From a medical perspective, Dr. Suman's protocols are sound. I've reviewed them extensively. With proper precautions, contact with humans is no more dangerous than contact with dozens of other species we interact with regularly. The Vorlons died because we didn't understand the problem. Now we do. Hai-jin was last to speak. I studied human languages and culture because I believed the galaxy's fear-based contact policies were wrong. Meeting actual humans confirmed that belief. They're creative, intelligent, and deeply social. They have concepts like honor, loyalty, and sacrifice that are central to their identity. These aren't the traits of a species we should fear. These are the traits of a species we should welcome. The debate raged for hours. Some delegates argued for destroying Earth before humans could become a threat. Others suggested continued quarantine with limited contact. A few brave voices called for full acceptance and immediate membership. Through it all, the three human delegates remained calm and dignified. When questioned, they answered honestly. When challenged, they responded with facts rather than emotion. When accused, they neither denied their capabilities nor apologized for their existence. Finally, Director Thelvas called for order. This council must make a decision. We cannot ignore the fact that humans are alive and have achieved spacefaring capability. The question is how we respond. Commander Vrecto stood. I propose we offer a compromise. A provisional arrangement that allows supervised contact while we assess whether humans can be trusted. Limited trade, cultural exchange, and scientific cooperation. If humans prove themselves peaceful over time, full membership can be considered. The Vorlon delegate looked conflicted, emotions warring on his face. Finally, he spoke. My people have carried anger for 847 cycles. We blamed humans for deaths that were truly caused by ignorance on both sides. He looked directly at Dr. Sumin. If your protocols can prevent such tragedies, if contact can be safe, then perhaps it's time to move past fear and toward understanding. I support the provisional arrangement. Other delegates began to voice their positions. Some remained opposed, but the momentum was shifting. The humans had made their case well, and more importantly, they had shown themselves to be reasonable people rather than the monsters of legend. When the vote was finally called, many delegates abstained, unwilling to commit either way. But when the final count was announced, the provisional arrangement passed by a margin of 12 votes. Thelvas made the announcement official. By council decree, Earth's quarantine is partially lifted effective immediately. Humanity is granted provisional status with the following conditions. Supervised contact only. No independent travel outside their system without authorization. Regular inspections to ensure compliance with safety protocols. And a review period of 1 galactic cycle before consideration for full membership. It wasn't everything the humans had hoped for, but it was a beginning. Jiwoo stood and bowed in the formal Earth gesture of respect. On behalf of humanity, we accept these terms with gratitude. We understand the galaxy's concerns, and we welcome the opportunity to prove ourselves worthy of your trust. As the assembly dispersed, Minji approached the human delegates. I'm sorry it's not full membership immediately. The restrictions seem harsh. Tajun smiled, an expression of genuine warmth rather than disappointment. Minji, we've been completely isolated for 847 cycles. These restrictions give us more freedom than we've had in all that time. We can finally begin the process of joining galactic civilization. That's a victory. And the review period works in our favor, Dr. Suman added. It gives us time to demonstrate our safety protocols, share our research, and show the galaxy what humans can contribute. By the time the review period ends, I suspect the vote for full membership will be far less close. Gu turned to all 4 members of the Wanderer's crew. You gave us this chance. You broke rules, risked your careers, and stood up for a species you barely knew. Humans don't forget that kind of courage. When Earth's story is told, your names will be remembered as the ones who ended our isolation. In the days that followed, the galaxy buzzed with news of humanity's return. Some species remained skeptical, watching warily as human delegates began meeting with council representatives. Others were curious, eager to learn about the survivors from the legendary Deathworld. Mingy and her crew became unexpected celebrities. The scientists who found the extinct species that wasn't extinct. The pilots who violated the galaxy's most serious quarantine and helped end it. They were called heroes by some and reckless fools by others. But for Mingy, the real satisfaction came from watching the first official cultural exchange. Human musicians performing for an audience of multiple species, human scientists collaborating with council researchers, human students learning alongside aliens from across the galaxy. These were the moments that proved the quarantine's end was right. One evening, Mingy stood on an observation deck, watching Earth through a long-range viewer. The planet hung in space, beautiful and dangerous, no longer forbidden, but still mysterious. Somewhere on that world, billions of humans were celebrating their reconnection with the galaxy. Planning their future among the stars, Giwu joined her at the viewport. "Thank you," the commander said again. "Not just for making contact, but for seeing us as people rather than threats. For giving us a chance when no one else would." "You proved you deserved it," Mingy replied. "You survived the impossible, adapted to conditions that would have destroyed any other species, and still reached out with peace instead of anger. That's worthy of respect." They stood together in comfortable silence, human and alien, looking at the planet that had once been declared a graveyard, but was now revealed as home to perhaps the most resilient species in the galaxy. The quarantine had ended, but the real story of humanity's place among the stars was just beginning.